Good morning, everyone. Glad to have you with us on the program this morning. And we're coming to you live via StreamYard as we're going to get a preview of the Kansas Commodity Classic. And we're going to be joined here in just a bit by the gentleman you see on your screen if you're watching on StreamYard, Josh Rowe, the CEO of Kansas Corn, Kaleb Little, who is the CEO of the Kansas Soybean Association and administrator of the Kansas Soybean Commission, and Adam York, who is the CEO the Kansas Sorghum Producers and the Kansas Grain Sorghum Commission. And that will be coming up this morning as we preview several of the events coming up, including the Kansas Commodity Classic this Friday at the Hilton Garden Inn in Salina. And that's coming up on the Ag Issues program right here on 580 WIBW. But before we do that, let's get a check of the forecast. Okay, for those watching on StreamYard, we are currently doing the weather on 580 WIBW. Talking about right now, it is cold outside, to say the least. Lawrence has the lowest temperature. Now, I'll say this with Lawrence, they also, where their reporting station is out at the airport in a low-lying area out at the airport. So the temperature reading tends to be a bit colder, but it is one as well that there are a lot of below zero readings, not many above zero readings, but about half and half as far as the reporting stations are concerned. All right, getting through the weather here. And then we will go here very shortly.
Thursday, we'll see low 30s for highs in southeast Kansas and partly cloudy. A mix of sun and clouds in the south central part of the state with highs in low to mid 30s. Upper 30s and low 40s forecast in southwest Kansas with some passing clouds. We're also expecting upper 30s and low 40s for the northwest part of the state and partly cloudy. Passing clouds in north central Kansas, highs reach from low to mid 30s. And upper 20s in northeast Kansas and partly cloudy. This is the Kansas Ag Network.
All right, thank you very much, meteorologist Regina Kroll, here on the Kansas Agriculture Network. As far as current temperatures are concerned, here in Topeka, 1 below at Billard Airport, 2 below this morning at Forbes Field. The winds, though, are pretty light, so it's keeping the wind chill not going too far down. Lawrence is the lowest temperature right now at 10 below zero, 5 below in Concordia and Emporia, 8 below this morning in Salina. This morning on the Ag Issues program, a pleasure to bring on to the program, and if you're watching on StreamYard, on your screen, Josh Rowe, the CEO of Kansas Corn. Josh, good morning.
Hey, good morning, Greg.
And also joining us on the program, Kaleb Little, the CEO of the Kansas Soybean Association and administrator of the Kansas Soybean Commission. Kaleb, good morning to you.
Good morning. Glad to be here.
And joining us as well is Adam York, the CEO of the Kansas Sorghum Producers and the Kansas Grain Sorghum Commission, as he joins us on the program as well. Kaleb, good morning to you.
Good morning. How are we doing today, Greg?
Doing great. Thank you. Josh, I'm going to start with you. The Kansas Commodity Classic, as always, a big event bringing together not only Kansas corn, Kansas soybeans, Kansas grain sorghum, but also Kansas wheat as well. And always a very informative conference that we have here in late January.
Yeah, and once again, we're having the Kansas Commodity Classic will be this Friday, January 30th in Salina at the Hilton Garden Inn. And I think this is our third year back in this location. we'll kick off at with, like any good farmer event, feeding you throughout the day, but kick off with breakfast at registration breakfast from 7:38, and then opening remarks from our Kansas Secretary of Ag, Mike Beam, at 8:30 a.m. And, look for some different speakers that we've had in the past, but you'll notice a theme in the, kind of that recurring theme in topics. We're going to talk markets, ag policy, weather. Always, gosh, I remember a few years ago, we decided not to have a weather speaker. We heard about it. So trust me, there will be a weather speaker, Ross Jansen out of Wichita, and then going to cap the day off with speaker I'm really looking forward to, Dwayne Cantrell with Fulcrum Global Capital, and they're a venture capital firm that focuses on agricultural investments. And so really looking forward to hear him kind of talk about maybe what's new and upcoming, not only in that technology space, but then kind of give a really good overview. I've heard him talk on this before on just kind of the changes in investment patterns and looking at kind of outside investment into agriculture. I think our farmers will find really interesting.
Now, another part of this, Josh, as well, each of you have events that are taking place not only during the Kansas Commodity Classic, but in your case, Josh, the day before.
Yeah. And, once again, we come to Salina a day early. Our Kansas Corn Symposium and annual meeting will be Thursday, the 29th. And we kick that off with lunch. And then going to have our keynote speaker kind of right off the bat after lunch there. Steve Lurch, he's a former Google executive. And, he speaks on a variety of topics around, but he's going to focus on AI. He was at one of, when he was at Google, he was on the ground of, developing kind of this consumer facing artificial intelligence. And he's going to come through with not like this kind of high end, this is what AI is, but hey, this is simple ways that you can utilize AI to make your farm operations more efficient. So I think that will be really interesting there. Then we'll also go into our annual meeting. We're going to get policy updates, set our resolutions for the year, hear from one of our National Corn Growers Association board members, and then get updates on our other programs on ethanol market development, education. And then, as always, cap off the night with a celebration of our Kansas Corn Yield Contest winners. And then we will be awarding someone, can't reveal who it is yet, but the Kansas Corn Impact Award. And going to end the night on something, I have no idea what it is, but my team tells me it's a lot of fun. It's called Singo. So I guess it's singing and bingo and karaoke. They say it's going to be a good time. So we're gonna close off the night with something fun before we get some rest and get ready for Commodity Classic the next day.
All right, Kaleb, you guys are very busy as well, but besides the Kansas Commodity Classic, your big event takes place after the Kansas Commodity Classic.
Yeah, Greg, you're right. We are. We last year was the first year we decided to put our soybean celebration in Salina with Commodity Classic. So many of our growers, are members of the other associations. So while we've got them together and we've got great content going with Kansas Commodity Classic, we're going to follow suit and have a similar pattern to last year. So once Commodity Classic wraps up Friday, the Kansas Soybean Association annual meeting will take place at 2:30. So we'll get a lot like Kansas Corn is doing, get the business of the association done for the year after that wraps up. And then we'll lead right into a social hour. And then the soybean celebration will kick off at 4:30. Organizational awards. That's where we'll do the soybean yield and value contest awards as well, some other recognitions and program. And then we're really excited to wrap up the night during our banquet with our keynote speaker, Tyne Morgan from U.S. Farm Report.
And Adam, don't want to forget about sorghum producers. I know you've got the Kansas Sorghum Producers annual meeting that takes place on Thursday.
That's right. This is the day before Kansas Commodity Classic. It'll be in Salina as well. We'll have reception and dinner starting about 5:30. Our growers are primarily coming from out in the western part of the state, which is why we like to have our annual meeting the day before Kansas Commodity Classic. They can spend the night in Salina and get some good information that Josh mentioned a little bit ago. This is a year where for sorghum growers, for any of the crops, the single farmer who grows maybe all 4 crops in rotation represented by Kansas Commodity Classic, information is really king to your management decisions coming up in 2026. It's been a doozy of a 2025. So really encourage everyone to come out, get the information you can, take control of what you can. And we look forward to seeing all of the sorghum producer members at our annual meeting. This is technically our 50th anniversary celebration of 1976, the record show, Kansas Sorghum Producers Incorporated. And we will have at our dinner the very first Kansas sorghum staffer, and Richard Vanderlip at K-State, who incorporated it 50 years ago. And he'll give a little bit of a look back at history, historical perspective of running some of the sorghum items in 1976 versus today in 2026. So welcome everyone to come on out.
All right, gentlemen, we're going to take a break, and when we come back, we're going to talk more about the upcoming Kansas Commodity Classic this Friday at the Hilton Garden Inn in Salina. As we had mentioned earlier, and as you've seen on your screen, if you're watching on StreamYard, you can go to the website kansascommodityclassic.com to register for any of the events, Kansas Corn Symposium, a Kansas Soybean Celebration as well. All right, stay with us. We'll have more on the Ag Issues program right after this. All right, we are in a break, commercial break. If you're watching on StreamYard.
And acres of campers on the lot. 25 RV brands on display, including Four Seasons new luxury brand Axiom. Show pricing honored all month long. Come early for best selection and save at Four Seasons RV. KansasRV.com. 6 months east of Abilene along I-70. This President's Day, Pure Talk is honoring Jackson and Lincoln by offering unlimited talk, text, and plenty of data for just $25 a month. Meanwhile, Big Wireless is honoring Benjamin Frank by charging families hundreds of dollars for the same 5G service. What's up with that? Ben Franklin was the US president. When you switch to Pure Talk, you'll be in business with an American wireless company that supports our vets in a big way and keeps all their customer service in this country. That's important. And you'll be on the same towers the big carriers use, so you'll get the same 5G service without the inflated price. So hang on to your Benjamins and switch to Pure Talk for a Jackson and a Lincoln. No contract, no hidden fees. Dial pound 250, say Mike Rowe, and you'll get 50% off your first month when you switch. That's pound 250, Mike Rowe, for an American wireless company that is truly unprecedented. Pure Talk.
Looking for trucks? You'll find them all at Foothills Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram. We've got hundreds of trucks, farm trucks, work trucks, and family trucks, ready to roll and priced to move. Whether you need power for the job site or adventure for the weekend, we've got your truck your way. So why wait? Head to family-owned Foothills Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram at 3100 Anderson Avenue in Manhattan. Shop local, save big, and drive your new truck home today.
Dr. Andrew Pope of Kansas Regenerative Medicine Center explains that cheaper doesn't mean better when it comes to stem cell therapy.
Cheap stem cells, they're offered by non-physicians that often sweep into account, offer you a steak dinner, tell you everything you want to hear. They'll have you come in a hotel room or come to your home, inject these stem cells in the lab, and call it a day. You get what you pay for.
The safest, most effective source of stem cells is you. Kansas Regenerative Medicine Center in Manhattan and Kansas City. Your stem cells, your health, your life.
Okay.
This is
Stand by. Here we go.
Greg Akagi.
We are back on the Ag Issues program this morning here on 580 WIBW, getting a preview of the Kansas Commodity Classic and taking place on Friday, January 30th at the Hilton Garden Inn in Salina. Again, you can register for the event by going to kansascommodityclassic.com. Joining us once again, Adam York, the CEO of the Kansas Sorghum Producers, Kaleb Little, CEO of the Kansas Soybean Association, and Josh Rowe, the CEO of Kansas Corn, that is taking place. Adam, I'm going to start with you. You know, one of the things to get is a legislative update, either from the members of Congress, Kansas congressional delegation, who are able to make it to the event as well. And I know front and center right now is the delay on the year-round use of E15, but also hearing from EPA concerning the RVOs as well.
Yeah, this is a critical impact issue for corn and sorghum. And I'll start at the top and then hand it over to Josh. But E15, we are so close, and this is something that these organizations, our state and national ethanol feedstock organizations, corn and sorghum, have been working on for many, many years. I worked on some of the issue actually from a congressional staff perspective with Josh when he was at corn about a decade ago on year-round E15. And we are so close. I expect the Kansas delegation to be fully in support of E15. It's just part of one of 50 states that are still working through the issues. And Josh, I might turn it over to you to talk a bit more on the back end.
Thanks, Adam. Yeah, that's probably the main source of, I guess, we put most of our effort in those last few months, and unfortunately kind of the main source of our frustration now. At this point, looking like the year-round E15 is not going to make it into the CR that will continue to fund the government. We'll see if there is a partial government shutdown or not towards the end of this. And kind of the deal as of now is a task force has been formed, and even over the weekend, seeing updated information on this from Speaker Mike Johnson that he expects a report out by mid-February. So that's coming up here really quick. So this issue can be resolved by he says by the start of the growing season, which I find ironic because Adam and I each have members that are down in Texas where the growing season's starting very soon through here. But just where we're just kind of continuing to be a victim of more of the dysfunction in Washington, D.C., and coming together with not only the ag groups having support of E15, but we brought along a vast majority of the petroleum industry as supporters. When you have the American Petroleum Institute, where it brings members like Phillips 66, ConocoPhillips lobbying on your behalf, shows this is a pretty big issue. Hope to get updates from our congressional delegation Friday as they see this as well. And then also our Region 7 EPA Administrator Jim Macy is going to be providing some remarks as well. And if this doesn't fall into legislative certainty for this summer driving season, we'll once again be asking the EPA to issue the waivers that allow it, so our retailers aren't stranded and not able to sell E15.
Yeah, all of our growers see the piles of these crops piling up that are not covered in a pile of snow. So the goal here with E15 is to break down those piles and add a bit more domestic stability in our crop production and profitability for our farmers.
Yeah, it's a market-based thing. We're not asking for money or a handout here. Not a mandate. This seems to make too much sense and has too many supporters. That's probably why we're having trouble getting it over the finish line. It needs to be crazier or something, Greg.
Kaleb, the soybean industry not immune to what we're seeing concerning biofuels. I spoke with Donnell Rehagen with Clean Fuels Alliance America last week down in their convention in Orlando, and he voiced his frustration with not hearing from the EPA. Oh, by the way, that's another thing of not hearing what direction they're going to go, and in this year the case is no different either.
Yeah, that's right. So whether you're talking biodiesel, renewable diesel, ethanol, all those industries are still waiting on those final RVOs. We got great news in the proposed rule with a very robust RVO for the biomass-based diesel category last fall. And now it's just a matter of getting it across the finish line. So those deadlines were before the end of the year. Last week, industry sources basically were hearing the White House administration is working to get those finalized as fast as they can. March 1 was kind of the date that was thrown around out there, unfortunately. But basically, we continue to lean on folks to say as soon as possible, because again, just like on the ethanol side, renewable fuels and biofuels are a huge market driver and a huge value add to our soybean producers. And so that renewable fuel standard is the baseline program that's really driving markets and growing demand there. So getting those rules and regulations finalized as soon as possible will be huge.
And again, though, Kaleb, those plants that have gone through this so many years, for one, the renewable tax credits, a few years ago, and now this, of where, what is their production level, and being consistent as far as their production level too.
Yeah, it's so hard for a business to maintain any kind of stability when the rules either change every couple of years or they're unknown every couple of years. So right now, 2 years ago, 2024, we saw the most biodiesel, renewable diesel produced in the country ever. And so obviously we slid back from that 5 billion gallons of production in 2025. But literally EPA and the Department of Treasury getting 2 rules done here this spring, even a quarter into the year, if those turn back on, we could see a record production again in the remaining 3 quarters of the year. So, it's really hard without that stability and without that certainty and, just what are the rules. But that biodiesel industry and the soybean crush industry is right there ready to support it.
And Josh, you've had a lot of discussion and a lot of work done between you and the oil refining industry as well. But it seems like this once again has come down to not being agreeable on the small refinery exemptions.
Yeah, and that's this is all related through with the RVOs, and I think something discovered through this. When you're in ag, you tend to just like lop the oil industry into like one camp, and it's like ag and then it's oil here. And when you get down to this, you really start seeing that fracturization that's within the oil industry through here, because this is a case, and I know Kaleb can make similarities through here, where you have partners of ours in the petroleum industry that have made investments in not only blending our bio-based ethanol and biodiesel, renewable diesel in, but have also become large producers. So you have these players in the industry that have seen, hey, this is what the intent of the RFS is. This is how things are going to go forward. And so they've made business decisions to comply with this. And most of them have been very successful. They've been more profitable because of the renewable fuel standard. But unfortunately, through this uncertainty where there's certain players out there that are allowed to receive exemptions from that, they've just, instead of making investments, they've kind of made a living on hoping that every few years the government will exempt them. And so they're really the ones that have raised the most noise. These tend to be kind of in areas of the country where we don't have the strongest agricultural champions in Congress helping out. And so it's just pretty easy to get those, their senators, their reps, just to raise enough of a ruckus, if you will, in this, just saying, hey, I'm not going to vote for that. And so publicly, these people are never actually voting against the renewable fuels, but in the background, there are threats to cause enough of a mess that could lead to additional things like government shutdowns and it just keeps things left out. But it's pretty unfortunate, and I venture you to find other industries besides the biofuel industry writ large that operates most years not knowing what the rules are going to be, not knowing what the tax rules, the demand is, because usually we're well into a calendar year before they even know what their stated volumes are going to be. And it's a really dynamic and puts a difficult situation for all of our partners.
Adam, I'm going to let you have the last word here. They call it the Rural Energy Council that they have put together. as far as giving this report. It sounds like it's going to come out quickly, but nonetheless, here we go again, yet another step that needs to be taken.
Yeah, two sides of that. I think we are, let me just say that it's just 2 weeks, I think, is that report deadline mid-February for when this council, which was a product of essentially the House Rules Committee going and working through the ethanol issue specifically for this big continuing resolution spending package in Congress, working its way through the process. So, that's one thing. On the other side, this absolutely is a punt, and we are too deep into farm economic crisis to have a punt just 2 weeks down the line. We wish last week that this would have been resolved. All lights would have been checking green for year-round E15. So that's, I think, our industry's message, National Sorghum Producers' message to Congress is essentially we're fed up with the delays. We have an industry, an ag industry in Kansas that is significantly below historical norms as far as profitability and producer mentality and psyche. This is an incredible win for any policymaker that represents a corn or sorghum or soybean producer, or definitely a Kansas producer that rotates essentially all the crops across the board. On the other side, we're seeing some uptick in the trade momentum, especially for sorghum sales. That is beneficial. But there's just a lot of bushels in Kansas this year to move out. And that's where E15, raising from the E10 national standard that our industries were hard fought in 2005 and 2007 to expand that to year-round E15, save consumers money, add some dollars to the farmer's pocket is so important.
All right. Adam York, CEO of the Kansas Sorghum Producers. You have your annual meeting on Thursday and, of course, the Kansas Commodity Classic on Friday. We appreciate you joining us this morning.
Thanks for having us, Greg.
And Kaleb Little, CEO of the Kansas Soybean Association. You, of course, had the Kansas Commodity Classic. Then after that will be the Kansas Soybean Celebration. We appreciate you joining us.
You bet. Looking forward to seeing you.
And Josh Rowe, the CEO of Kansas Corn. You have the Kansas Corn Symposium on Thursday of this week, and that, of course, followed by Friday on the Kansas Commodity Classic. As always, a pleasure.
Yeah, thanks, Greg, and looking forward to seeing a lot of familiar faces on Friday.
This is Ag Issues here on 580 WIBW. Stay with us. When we come back, we'll get an update on the news headlines, and we'll check the weather forecast. That comes up next.